talking to myself and couldn't sleep for days. It was crazy. When I actually got sentenced to 15 to life, though, this is a true story. Like these stories, you just never forget, right? So they kept coming back hung and all kinds of stuff, and then the judge did something that they said had never been done before, which was he reopened closing arguments so they wouldn't be hung. It was in the newspaper, first time done in over 30 years, like craziness, right? They came back 15 minutes after reopening closing arguments, and they're like, hey, they're ready for you. And I'm like, I got second degree murder. And the deputy's like, how you know? And I'm like, they came back way too fast, right? So I go back down, they convict me, second degree murder. When I come up, there's a little Asian homie in the holding tank, and he's like, hey man, what they give you, man? I'm like, man, it's 15 to life. And he's like, man, don't even trip. I got convicted of 3 first degree murders, 2 second degree murders, a couple manslaughters, and I got a whole bunch more I got to fight. And I'm like, he's tripping, right? So the deputy walked me down to where I'm being held, and I'm like, hey, is he for real? And he's like, oh yeah, he's getting extradited state to state. He went on a killing spree across the whole country. Wow. And I'm like, and right there I said, man, it could be worse. And I just was like, I just have to set my mind to, I'm not going home, and make the best of it. Like that was my whole thing. And I'm telling you, a weight, just hearing that, I was like, I know I got it bad, but I don't have it worse than everyone, right? And so if that answers your question.
Yeah, so that's, I call that perception, right? How you look at it. You know, someone is always doing worse than we are, right?
Yeah.
It's either we take our circumstances and make it be the worst that it is, or we talk to somebody and realize it's really not that bad. There's still light there.
100%.
Let me ask you a question. Because I know Berkeley is a college town, it's a hippie town.
Oh, yeah.
It's an activist town, right? Yep. And you got a lot of skaters out there, the bikers and stuff like that. So when you got the sentence and you went to prison, like, you know, county jail is one thing. And I know that California has the largest county jail in the country. I know it's got LA County, right? I think it's LA County, and then Rikers Island, and then you got Cook County in Chicago.
Yep.
Those are the 3 biggest and baddest county jails in the country. But when you went up north, we're talking Chino, we talking, you know, we got Chino, you got San Quentin, you got all these prisons. When you got there, like, what was your reality like? Like when you got there and it, like, this is the big house. What was that
paint
like?
A picture.
Yeah, like,
man, I tell everyone this. I'm like, it is so ominous because you see the movies, you see the documentaries, right? And a lot of that stuff is based in the oldest school prisons, which are San Quentin and Folsom, Old Folsom, right? And that is exactly how they look. Like they ain't dressing it up like it's boiler rooms, it's blind spots, it's bad. And you're pulling up into this artifact of a prison. I mean, San Quentin was a prison that was a boat to start with. Like, I'm surprised they don't still use a damn boat. Like, it's old school. And when you pull up, you just feel that. Like, you feel like how many people, like, and I'm not just talking inmates, I'm talking COs that have just been murdered here and like craziness. Now, I will say this, you still got death row there. But then everyone else is lower level, right? Outside of that reception center where you have to go through, right? So San Quentin's one of the reception centers, and being that I'm from the Bay Area, like that's mandatory where you go to get processed. So I did a little over 2 months in San Quentin before I got shipped off to where I was doing my time. And yeah, it was ominous, man. 5 tiers. And at the time I was there, they were still installing what they call suicide bars on the upper tiers so that you can't jump or be thrown off. So I was on the 5th tier. And while I was up there, someone got thrown off the 3rd tier. Someone else got stabbed on the tier in front of me. And, you know, them tiers, you barely have enough room to walk through. So it was just crazy. And I'm like, damn, everything, like all that stuff you see in the movies, I'm seeing like every other day, right? It's just crazy. And it's like the old school, like they got a key every door. Like that's not how the prison was I ended up going to. That was a 180 yard, you know, fishbowl where they could see everything. Yeah, San Quentin, the catwalks, and they're right there, literally, 35 feet away from you with a Mini 14. It's surreal, man.
So let me
And
ask you this.
yeah,
Pardon me for cutting you off.
no.
Did was there ever any kind of uh evaluation therapy, that was given to you or any other of the prisoners that were there? Like, did y'all see any psych?
Oh yeah, 100%. So the that's part of the process. When you go through reception, you part of your process is you have to go see the psych, and they do your mental health check, and then they figure out if you're going to be triple CMS or what they call a hot med, or anyone who's going to be on psych medication and all that. So there's a whole gambit of everything from IQ tests to physicals to psychiatric screenings. Like, you go through this whole thing, and then classification, like what are you going to be housed as. So me being half white, half Latino, but in California is pretty simple. It's you're white, you're black, you're Mexican national, you're other, which is pretty much everything else thrown in a bucket, or you're Native American, right? And so in that other bucket is primarily your Asians, your Pacific Islanders, your Latinos, like your Puerto Ricans, your Cubans, or anyone who doesn't want to run with the Mexicans. And then you have your North and South Mexicans, right? So for me, they were automatic. They see Guerrero and I'm from the North. They're like, you're Norteño. And I'm like, no, go to hell. I'm not. One, I'm not Mexican. Two, I don't bang. So that's not me. I'm like, I'm other. And I had to go through all kinds of crap proving that I wasn't Mexican. I'm like, if you guys know your history, Guerrero is a Spaniard name. It ain't from Mexico or Peru, but we can talk about that later. I got into it with a lieutenant who happened to be Mexican with Guerrero for a last name. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I'm sorry if you never read a history book, but that ain't from neither one of our people, bro. We were raped just like a lot of other people. We got the religion and the last name and the language, and we lost the gold and the silver. But anyway, but yeah, so I ran with the others. So like, if you look on my timelines, you'll see all kinds of Samoans and Asians all over the place. But yeah, so that's part of that process going through. So I did, and ironically, I was on psych meds for depression because I killed my best friend, right? And I was on that all through county. When I got there, though, like, everyone's like, man, there's a plus and minus to psych meds. And I was like, what's that? They're like, you get to go to an air conditioned building because, when it gets hot, you're on those meds, you can pass out. But it also means you can't be on the yard if it goes over 90 degrees. And most of the pins are up north or down south. You're going to be in 90-degree weather. And I was like, man, I ain't seen no kind of yard in 2 years. I've been in county. So I went in there. I was like, I am perfectly fine. I don't have any problems. I can sleep like a baby. Like, I lied my way right out the meds. And yeah, when I hit the yard, I didn't have to wear no vest, no nothing saying that I got any special needs. I was like, nope.
So how when you take a person, right? Like, we all been through the system and stuff, right? You take a person that's living in the free world, living whatever we doing, getting money, acting a fool. Like, we're all a certain person when we're in society, right? Now you have to deal to your new reality and being in the belly of the beast and being among, real killers, serial killers, murderers, rapists, gangbangers, people that like they have no regard for human life, right?
Yeah.
The two-part question is, one, like, what is the wildest thing that you've seen in there, right? That you was like, oh shit. And then, like, when did you start to say, you know what, I don't want to be that guy that come in here with 15 years and end up doing 30 or 40, right? So did you decide to go re-entry in the beginning, or did you wait till you was transitioning out to say, I'm gonna make a change with my life?
Hey, great question, right? So I'm gonna kind of think about the craziest thing I ever seen. As far as when I made a change, I had a cellie who told me, man, there's two numbers you're gonna remember, and I was like, what's that? And he was a lifer too. He was like 5 years and 7 years, and I said, all right, what's 5 and 7? He goes, 5 years, you're gonna feel like you just showed up. Everything's gonna be brand new. You can be stressed out, all this stuff. I was like, okay, because I was at like 4 years at the time. I'm like, all right, so I got a year before that hits, right? I was like, what's 7? He goes, at 7, you're going to make a decision what you want to do. Like, if you want to listen to everyone on the yard and just keep doing what they doing, if you want to be anti-social, if you want to be anti the man, you know, blah blah blah, or you're gonna jump into like trying to better yourself. You're gonna make a choice, though, and that's probably what you're gonna do until you go home or die, right? And I was like, man, and this dude, he's like a few years younger than me, right? I'm like, what the hell, you know, right? So I'm like, whatever. I ain't gonna lie, 5 years was basically when I got my sentence overturned, and it felt brand new. I was stressed out. I was like, oh man, even though I got a release date, who knows if I'll live that long, right? Like, what's gonna happen? So he was spot on with that. 7 years, ironically, was spot on too. I ended up going to the hole in 2004 for a cell phone, and back then it wasn't like today where fools are in there doing TikTok and everything else. Like, it was escape paraphernalia back then. You went to the hole, and it was a big deal, right? So I was in the hole, and I had a lot of time to think about like what I was doing because I was drinking. I mean, we had our building locked down. Like, the guards let us do whatever the hell we wanted. I mean, I jokingly say it was almost like the movie Goodfellas. Like, we were in there smoking cigars, and they would be like, "Sergeant's coming." We put everything out, hide our drink, and like, we had it good, but we also ran the building for them. They didn't have to do no incident reports. And when I went to the hole for that phone, I was just like, damn, I had it. I had DVD players, Game Boys, like I had all this stuff back in the day, right? I was as comfortable as you could possibly be. And so when I got out, I actually was in there long enough that my points dropped down. I went to dorm living. And so that was a whole nother level of stress, but it made me really evaluate and say, like, damn, and that was right around 7 years.